This video is going to be about the microscopic muscle tissue. We're going to be explaining myofibrils, and just as a review quickly, we have myofibrils in the end of the skeletal muscle fiber. So if I look here at the end of this diagram, you can see here that there are little dots at the end of this skeletal muscle fiber. And the skeletal muscle fiber is going to be made up of repeating units. So when I go to look at these myofibrils, which I'm putting dots here on the screen to represent those myofibrils inside of the muscle cell. A muscle cell and a muscle fiber are the same thing, okay? When we cut this, I'm going to change colors here so that way you guys can see. I want you to imagine that this is a pink knife. And this pink knife is cutting this in half, like cutting a hair in half, or cutting some piece of pasta or spaghetti or something, okay? So when I cut it in half, I'm going to end up having these stripes that I can see. And in those stripes, well, we don't always cut it exactly straight. So sometimes it looks like these stripes don't really match up very well. And it's because that inside of there, imagine hair in a ponytail. Not every single hair is going to be lined up exactly as we think it might be, or we think it should be. So when we have these fibers and we cut them, they do look a little bit different. And I will show you what I mean right now. Okay, so as we start looking at this picture here, I want you to notice all of these slices. So I'm going to take the blue color because I think that'll be easiest. And you can see the line here and here. Okay, so I'm going to erase that now and look where those lines were, because when I erase them, now you can see that there's a jog in the sarcomeres, which I'll talk about that in a second, okay? A sarcomere is what we're looking at when we see that this one stops here, and then this one's over here, and this one's over here, and this one's back over here, and this one's over here. These right here are going to be those myofibrils, and because of the way they're cut, we see them looking like there's some sort of seam. And in fact, these are the myofibrils that are going to be inside of the muscle fibers. And then you can notice right here, that would be a nucleus. This here would be part of a nucleus. Hopefully you remember back to the histology project when we saw these, okay? So that right there is going to be different myofibrils. So let's look again at this guy right here, okay? So if I look at this right here, I can see this myofibril is one of these tubes that makes up, can you say it? Do you remember what it was? What does it make up? It makes up a muscle fiber, a muscle cell. Okay, so what we're looking at right here is we're looking at one muscle cell, and that one muscle cell has many, many myofibrils. Okay, so those myofibrils are going to be made up of two different chemicals. One of them is called myosin, and it's the thick one. So when we look at something that is thick versus something that is very thin, right? Which are we going to be able to see better? Are we going to be able to see the thick one better? Or are we going to be able to see the thin one better? Okay, obviously the thicker one is going to be darker. Okay, so I'm going to stick with my red because my myosin is written in red, and I think that that will help me as I go back and look. If I look at this picture right here, all of this is myosin. So So now I'm going to mark it red so that way you can see all of this darker color is myosin. Now I want you to notice that we have a split here in the cells. And as these are split, I hope you're thinking about what we called them. Let's take a look down here again and let's think about what we called them when they split, right? This I'm looking at right here is a whole skeletal fiber. And each of these little lines that makes up the skeletal fiber is going to be a myofibril. And that myofibril is what I'm looking at with these lines that separate this. So you take a peek at that, keep looking at where I'm drawing on this picture and separating these myofibrils, and I'm going to erase them now so that way you can see the details, okay? So myofibrils are those stripes in the muscle, and the myosin is going to be the thicker ones that are dark, okay? Then we have a second fiber in this. And the second fiber in this is going to be the actin. And the actin is written in blue, so I am going to go ahead and stick with the blue for the actin, okay? And actin is going to be the light colored area in between the darker areas, okay? And as you can see, I'm covering over many microfibrils to show you the actin. All of this is the actin layer, okay? And you'll notice that there's a really dark line down the center of the actin layer. We're going to talk about that, so don't forget that there's that line that's in between. So here we are. Let's look at one of these myofibrils specifically. So let's look right here. And notice in this coloring, there's light and dark, light and dark, light and dark. The dark areas, I'm hoping that you remember, those were the thick ones, the myosin. And then we had, let me do this right. Let me say this again, because we were going to do these in red. The myosin is the dark ones. Okay, so dark, there's a group here, and there's a group here of those myosin fibers. All right, now I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you the actin fibers. And remember, the actin fibers are blue. Do you see how they look like this? That's these right here too. Okay, and I need you to notice that they don't touch at the middle at the M line. So here's the middle. The middle is the M line. The middle is the M line. And this is going to be where the myosin is attached at this midline. So the myosin reaches out this way, and the myosin reaches out this way, and the myosin reaches out. And as it's reaching out down either side, it's going to be surrounded by that actin. So again, here's the actin, here's the actin, here's the actin. Okay, so I'm just drawing it repetitively to not pick up my pen, but these are going to be chemicals that are working together to cause this contraction. Now, this is kind of hard to understand, and this is why we waited till the end of the year to go over muscles, because it is so complicated here, okay? Before I move on, I was going to show you the cross section